Hello there. So, do you ever feel like if you could just stick to what you know and get disciplined about not eating sugar and not eating flour and just do the things that you know you're supposed to do with food, that you could finally have some freedom around it? Okay. So, if you've ever had any thought that in order to be free or to lose weight, you've got to figure out what to eat, then I want you to stick around today because what we're talking about is what it really takes, what to really, really take off your plate, what to cut out in order to have freedom from food, food addiction, food obsession, and actually really any addiction or obsession that you're struggling with. And what I find too is that these tips that I'm going to share with you today are also a secret to feeling lighter and actually to losing weight. So if those are things that you want to, then definitely stick around. So, hello, I am Debbie Lichter, founder of Freedom from Food Addiction and Freedom Embodied Academy. And it is my absolute honor and pleasure to be here with you to get raw and real and to talk about what is really going on and what we really need to do in order to have lasting freedom in our lives. And so let's just dive in, because I know that I personally, this was what I struggled with for so many years, a health and fitness expert and, a brain full of nutrition knowledge, and thought that I knew what I should be doing and didn't understand what I was missing, didn't understand why I would, be good for a couple of days and, and then frankly, find myself rewarding myself for the very foods that I was trying to cut out and be so good about not eating. And it would just happen over and over again. And I was constantly thinking about food. So if you find yourself constantly thinking about food, what should I eat? What can I have? What can't I have? You're in the middle of a conversation with someone, you're worrying about what you should eat or what they might be thinking about you. This is the kind of stuff that when we talk about freedom, when we talk about feeling lighter, we're talking about this kind of stuff. This is kind of the stuff that can have us feeling really, really weighed down. So what I'm going to share with you today are 5 secrets, 5 things that I recommend that you cut out now, that you get off of your plate now in order to have true freedom around food. And I will give you a little hint. It is not what you think it is. So if you have an idea of what you think it is, you can post in the comments. I might be seeing some comments about sugar and flour and carbs and lectins. That's the new buzzword these days, lectins, or gluten or dairy or any of those things. Feel free to share what you think it is, and I will just dive in right now, because what I found is that it actually has very little to do with what we are actually eating. It has way more to do. Freedom from food addiction and food obsession has way more to do with what you are putting on your internal plate, what you are weighing yourself down with inside. Because here's the deal, is that when you can get free of the things that are weighing you down inside, guess what? You feel lighter. You feel lighter on the inside, and that translates into feeling lighter on the outside. So if those are things that you're wanting, then stick with me here. We're going to dive in right now. So number 1, the first thing to get off of your plate is self-judgment. Self-judgment. So let's talk about that, because I speak with so many smart people who come to me and it's like they're so intolerant, and I get this. I get it, because I so know it. I just so relate to this. But like, you are in so much judgment because you're not only in your own judgment for all the things that you feel like you should be doing, that you're not doing, that you feel too lazy for, or you feel like you're too weak, or you just can't get it, or what's wrong with you. But there's also this an absolute intolerance, because there's also at the same time, simultaneously, this projection into those other people are probably thinking the same thing about me. And so I want to enter into this conversation letting them know that I'm already being really hard on myself, so they don't have to. And they know that I'm working really, really, really hard, and I'm not willing to settle for the status quo. Because if I were to accept myself right now, then that would mean that nothing would change, and I would actually just go completely, the bottom would fall out. I would get completely out of control, and that's just not going to work. And so I'm going to hold myself to this high ideal. I'm going to beat myself up. I'm going to be really mean to myself in my head, because that will keep me motivated to continue to press forward. So if you relate to any of this at all, this self-judgment, self-criticism, here's what I'll say about this, is that the self-judgment and the self-criticism is actually a sign of false pride. I know it sounds really weird, because when you're feeling all that stuff about yourself, when you're treating yourself that way, you feel about this big. It's like the furthest thing from arrogance that you might think is going on. But false pride is like, I should be able to figure this out. I should be able to do it. And I'm not. And so I'm going to just beat myself up. And what it does is it actually holds us hostage. It hijacks our ability to actually have freedom, because we keep ourselves stuck in this place of judgment and of denying ourselves, of just polarizing ourselves from the parts of ourselves that we feel like are inadequate or insufficient or, just wrong, bad, weak, lazy, whatever it is. Hey, Rex, so good to see you. And what that does when we separate ourselves and we deny certain things, compartmentalize from the things that we are so intolerant of, is that actually that dynamic actually holds us hostage. It does not allow us to move forward into actual freedom. So self-judgment is the first thing that needs to come off your plate. And by the way, after I get through these 5 things, I'll talk about how to start getting these things off your plate. Because that's like, you might be thinking, okay, yeah, that's great. I do that. I relate to it, but now what? So I'm going to share that with you. So stick around, promise. Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2, oh my gosh, this is a big, big one, especially if you are a capable person who has figured out a lot of things already. And, you've probably gotten pretty far doing this thing that I'm about to share with you that needs to come off your plate. So this is trying to figure everything out on your own, never asking for help, just trying to do everything on your own. This is so, so classic. I speak with so many people and they're like, listen, I don't feel like if I don't figure this out, there's nobody there. There's nobody who's going to support me. I've always been the one to pull myself up by my bootstraps. When I rely on other people, they let me down. And so I've just cultivated a way of being that has me just trying to figure everything out. And here's the problem with all of that. When you are like, I don't ask for help, it's really challenging for me to ask for help. I'm way more apt to help others, and I tend to take on others' stuff, but it's really hard for me to ask for help. Here's the thing. I know it sounds really, really heroic to do that. I used to do that too. But what it does, it literally has you like feeling the weight of the world on your shoulders. You burden yourself. You put a lot of pressure on yourself. And it's a way that we actually avoid feeling vulnerable, because it's incredibly vulnerable to ask for help. It's incredibly vulnerable. And if you have had any experience in your life that had you not feeling safe, then this is particularly challenging, because asking for help and reaching out your hand and saying, I'm open, please help me, it puts you in a place that feels very vulnerable. And, feeling vulnerable can have a lot of us feeling unsafe. And so if those are themes that move through your life, I'm just going to let you know, this is your party. You can do what you want, but I'll just let you know that as long as you are running that track, if you actually want freedom around food, freedom around your relationship with food, if you want to lose weight, if you want to feel lighter, then these are the things that I just invite you to take a look at, because these are the things that are weighing you down, literally wearing the weight of the world on your shoulders, burdening yourself, pressuring yourself, and never, ever asking for help. That is just a recipe for sabotage. It's a recipe for feeling stuck, feeling resentful, So just, when we talk in a few moments about what to do to really start to shift some of this stuff, I invite you to really shine a flashlight on this area if it's starting to relate for you. Hey, Stephanie, I'm so glad that you're here with us. Okay, so number 3, this actually dovetails off of number 2, but it deserves its own category. It deserves its own category, and that is trying to get things under control. Trying to get things under control. So here's what happens so many times is that whether we identify as control freaks or not control freaks, the truth of the matter is that each one of us has a certain perception or belief about how things should be in order for us to feel okay, in order for everyone to be happy, in order for things to go smoothly. And so we have a tendency to try and orchestrate or manage or manipulate or influence how things go in our lives and in the lives of those around us, so that we can so that we can ensure that we are going to be safe, so we can ensure we're going to get what we need, so we can ensure that we're not going to lose what we have, so we can ensure we're not going to look stupid or get rejected or not be liked. Right. And so there's all these things that we do, and what it has us doing over and over again is trying to get things under control. So here's the thing. The reason why trying to get things under control needs to come off your plate is because anytime we are trying to get things to be a certain way, for us to feel like we're going to be okay on the inside, it creates rules. It creates rigidity, literal physical rigidity in your body. I don't know if you relate to that. I certainly do. Where when you're attached to an outcome, it kind of has you like hooked into things in a different way. Like you're kind of corded into things in a different way. And all of that creates more complication. It creates more complexity. It has life feeling harder and more like a struggle, because now instead of just being able to be open and relaxed and taking it easy, now it's like there's a particular way that things need to go. And if they don't go that way, then it kind of makes us a little bit flustered or a little bit tense or a little bit anxious. And maybe we overtly realize that we're doing this. And maybe this is only a really subtle thing that's going on in our lives. But I have not spoken with one human being on this planet who doesn't have a version of this going on, even if we purport to be, really spiritual and, believe the universe has my back, all this really good stuff, all this philosophical stuff. What I find is when it comes down to it, many of us are operating in this way of, I need things to go a certain way. I just noticed myself doing it this week. So, anyway, this is just one of those things that is going to be really important for us to cut out if we ultimately want to have lasting freedom. And when I talk about lasting freedom, I don't mean freedom that's like out at some far off destination that you're never going to get there, or one day you're going to get there. Lasting freedom is something that you can access. Freedom, like you've heard me say before, freedom is not a destination. Freedom is a vibration. Freedom is something that you can access in each moment. So each one of these things I'm talking about, it's not like you've got to figure all this stuff, you've got all this work to slave over, and then only finally one day you'll be able to experience the freedom. If you are able to cut these things out, then you can have an experience of feeling lighter on the inside. And it can happen really, really quickly once you know the how. Okay, so that is number 3. Number 4, this is so huge. These 2 things I'm about to say are so, so huge, because this is the stuff that weighs heavy on us, that weighs heavy on our hearts. Fears and resentments. These are so big that this is the stuff that we are afraid of, the stuff that is running us in the background, the ways that we're acting in the world, because we really are running on fear of what others are thinking about us, fear of failing, fear of looking bad, fear, again, of not getting what we need, of losing what we have, fear of being rejected, fear of being abandoned, fear of being alone. I mean, there's so many fears that can be running us. And they might not, again, be right on the surface of our awareness. We might just notice certain behaviors like overgiving or people pleasing. I speak with lots and lots of people who are in a pattern of overgiving or people pleasing. And so you notice that, and maybe on the surface, that doesn't necessarily look like it's being driven by a fear. But if you were just to explore a little bit deeper, what's really going on? Is there a fear of people not liking you? Is there a fear of disappointing? Is there a fear of letting people down? Is there a fear of looking bad? You know, what is that deeper fear that's going on? And if you look bad, what's the fear underneath that? Do you fear that you're going to be rejected? Do you fear that you are going to be shut out? That you're going to be abandoned, that you're not lovable, that it means that you're wrong and bad? What is the fear that's underneath that? And when we start to just peel back the layers and go deeper and deeper, we can start to see, oh my gosh, I am weighed down by fear. I am weighed down by fear. And that's an important thing just to recognize, because we can talk all day long about cutting out sugar and flour and wheat and, carbs and lectins and gluten and all this stuff, but if you have some serious fear that is weighing on you, oh my gosh, that is going to make you feel heavy inside. It just is. So that's really important just to acknowledge, and that's a definite thing that we want to cut out, get off of your plate. And following from that is resentment. So resentment is one of those things where it will consume you. If you are feeling irked, irritated, annoyed, pissed off, in judgment of, angry, rageful, or just that kind of bitter resentment, that that kind of resentment where you kind of tell yourself, I just need to let it go. They just can't do it any better, and I'm just going to let it go. Any of that stuff. Hey, Brooke, so good to see you. Any of these things, like, this is, in my experience, and just from, working with other folks for so many years around this stuff, is that we can't just let it go. We can't, it's like we say, I'm just going to let it go. And then we're still chewing on it. We're still chewing on it, and it's still creating that heaviness on us inside. And what it does, I don't know if you've noticed this with resentment, is that it tends to be something that you kind of can't get out of your head. It's like you're driving, you're thinking about it. You're taking a shower, you're thinking about it. You're having a meal, you're thinking about it. You're constantly processing and thinking about this. And what it does is it cuts us off from our spiritual connection. And so anytime we're cut off from our spiritual connection, we are really, really blocked from having another level of freedom. And so again, if you're wanting to feel lighter, if you're wanting to have more freedom, whether it's around food or any area in your life, these are the things that are so, so important to really cut out, to get off your plate, so that you can create that internal experience of lightness. And that will translate into your external reality feeling lighter too. And this is where I noticed that internal lightness turning into weight loss, anywhere from 10 pounds to 50 pounds. I've had clients, losing up to 50 pounds or more, like just because they got that internal sense of lightness. So this is what's actually possible. And we don't even talk about food or what they're putting on their plates. So this is the stuff. Lynn, I'm so glad that you're here. Wonderful. So number 5. Okay, so all these things are progressive. They actually all build off of each other. And number 5 definitely builds off of number 4. Okay, so this is what this is. Number 5. So what needs to come off your plate, what you need to cut out, is any area that you are withholding, not speaking up, not telling the truth, telling a white lie, trying to smooth over the truth, being inauthentic, anything that you're stuffing down. So what we're really talking about here is any way, what you need to cut out is any way that you are not fully being truthful. Because here's what happens energetically, spiritually, physiologically, okay, this happens on every single level, is that when we are not being truthful, when we are holding back, when we're stuffing down, when we are being inauthentic, when we're pretending, when we're not speaking up, what it does is it actually creates an energetic trauma at our throat chakra. it creates an energetic trauma, and you might feel that physically. I speak with so many people, and I had this for years. Actual pain in your throat. Pain in your throat, a sore throat, feeling tension in your throat, feeling a ball in your throat, having a scratchy voice, coughing a whole lot, clearing your throat. Lots and lots of stuff that actually happens at a physiological level, which is a manifestation of what's going on at an energetic and a spiritual level. What's going on at an energetic and a spiritual level is that you have incongruence happening. You literally have blocked yourself. You have bottlenecked yourself here. So you might have all these spiritual beliefs, because kind of like, praying and believing and meditating, all this kind of stuff, but you literally have constricted yourself right here. And so nothing is translating down. This is such a huge, I can feel it right now. Yeah. So some folks who are listening to this if you can feel some stuff going on in your throat right now, then this might be an area that you want to pay some attention, because I can feel some of your throats super activated right now. Like a little tickle going on, if anyone's feeling that. You know who you are. So this is so big, is the ways that we think that on the front end, we think that if we are not, if we're just kind of going with the flow, or we're putting on a happy face and we're smoothing things over and we're not rocking the boat and we're just pretending here, we're just telling a little white lie over there, we don't want to be mean, we don't want to offend, we don't want to disappoint others, we don't want them to not like us, we don't want to let them down, all this stuff, and we'll do these things and we don't realize the toll that it is taking on us, the toll that it is taking on our physiology, the toll that it is taking on our energy. It depletes our energy, okay? It just completely hemorrhages our energy. It has us physically feeling discomfort, dis-ease. This is where anxiety can come up a whole lot. This is where that constant judgment can come up, because that inner tension that you experience when you know that you want to say something and then you hold yourself back, and then even worse, I know we've all had the situation where you hold back and then somebody else says the thing that you were gonna say, and you're like, you're kicking yourself. You're like, I should have said something, or if you're not honoring your yes or your no, that is a huge one, right? And you're saying yes, but inside you're meaning no. It creates so much inner turmoil. This is the stuff that truly blocks us and creates so much internal heaviness. And then, of course, if you're stuffing things down, it's going to make you more apt to physically stuff things down with food or with drink or with whatever the thing is, with binging on Netflix, whatever it is, it's going to lead to, further trauma, which usually shows up in the form of addictions and obsessions and those kinds of self-sabotaging patterns. So these are the things, when we really get down to it, these are the things that are so important to actually clear off your plate. And when you can do this stuff, this is what truly opens you up. So I talked about at the beginning of this video that I would get into a little bit of the how. Now, clearly we're not going to be able to dive into all of that, because I have, entire 9-month and year-long programs that support people through these pieces. But what I will say is that everything starts at the same place. And so what I want to share with you right now is where to start, so that you can start to get on your path. And of course, if you are, hearing something that you want to dive deeper into, I'll leave a link in the comments. I'm happy to chat with you more and just kind of help you create that custom plan to really what your specific plan of true freedom and lightness really looks like for you. Happy to do that for you. So I'll leave a link in the comments. But I want to share with everybody right here, right now, what to start with. And it's really simple. And yet it can be great, big, huge, challenging. So that one thing is honesty. Starting with honesty. Getting honest. And here's the important thing about honesty. Honesty is, can I get honest? Can I get real with how it's been? or how it is now without condemnation, without condemning myself, without the judgment, without that whole story. Remember, that's all the false pride stuff. Honesty does not live in false pride. Honesty is just saying, can I get real right now? As I listen to these things, as I listen to these 5 things, as I listen to the stuff that really is maybe weighing heavy on me, that's holding me back from that inner lightness or from that external experience of losing weight or feeling free around food. Where can I get honest about these things? Where am I in resentment? Where am I in fear? Where am I being dishonest or withholding? Where am I in self-judgment? And where am I trying to do everything on my own, not asking for help? These are really, really important questions to ask us. These things, honesty is a congruent action. So even though getting honest doesn't always feel like the sexiest thing to do in the moment, it actually puts us on the trajectory of freedom, because there's a deep, deep part of you that knows this stuff. And we can kind of live in our delusions and our story and our denial and our distractions for a long time. But when we actually just sit and we get quiet and we go within and we ask that deep, wise part of ourselves, where do I need to get honest? There's something like that just, it's like there's an internal sigh of relief, like, oh my gosh, like your soul is saying, thank you. Can we just get all of us on board here? Can we get the head, heart, and gut to all be in alignment? Can we just get real about what's going on? You know, this is why I'm so passionate. And actually, Brooke, I need to talk to you because I'm wanting to come out to Boulder to do this. These monthly women's gatherings, these freedom talks, to come out, to gather women together and to get real about what is happening. And Lynn, we can talk about Charleston too, girlfriend, because I'm telling you, this has been a really, really big thing where there's so many women's circles, there's moon circles, there's all this kind of stuff that goes on around there, but there's nothing like this, of really getting a group of women together to go deep and to talk about what's really going on, and to talk specifically about what it really takes to get on that next level of freedom from whatever addiction or obsession or self-sabotage is holding you back. And Rex, don't worry, there is stuff for gentlemen too. So I would love to catch up with you anyway. So reach out for sure. But in order to be able to really, what I find is that there's a quality. So honesty has this quality, but what really goes hand in hand with honesty that allows for this to take flight and really, really move you forward is to combine honesty with humility. So yeah, babe, for sure. We will talk. I promise. It's like even on my mind, tracking you. Of course, you're like popping on today. So is honesty and humility. Because here's the thing, is that humility, it takes that vulnerability that we talked about with number 2, that vulnerability to ask, to say, hey, I don't actually have the answers. And let me actually, everything that I thought I knew about what I should be doing has brought me to where I am right now. And I want to go further. And I get that all of my resources and all of my tools and all of my knowledge has brought me here, but I want to be there. So now what? Well, I need to actually ask for help. I don't know what goes in that next level there. I don't know what those tools are. I don't know what that is. It's outside of my current mental construct. So I need to be open. And all of that takes tremendous amounts of humility. It also takes tremendous amounts of humility to get honest about what is or what has been without going down the rabbit hole of false pride. Because false pride will, again, it'll hijack us, it'll hold us back. And so humility is one of those incredibly, I find it's like one of the highest spiritual qualities that is so underrated and not talked about very much, that carries us through. We can bring humility into, if I'm trying to, get under control. Hey, Pam, so good to see you. If I'm trying to get things under control all the time, and that I lack a certain amount of humility, because it means that I am constantly thinking, I know how things should be. I know what things should look like, and things should be this way, and if things would just go this way, we would all get along, or I would feel better, or you would feel better, or we would all be happier, we would all be more successful, so everybody listen to me. It's kind of like saying you're God, which is not very humble, you know? I mean, and I'm not here to get into a whole spiritual conversation about like, yes, we are all divine and we are all God and we are all, you know, all that stuff. That's a different video for a different day. But you know what I mean? There's a difference between being God or being goddess and playing God. When we play God, that's a whole different deal. And that's where we kind of get tripped up on ourselves. That's like being that little, you know, like 3-year-old or 4-year-old, and you know, I'll just give this analogy for, you know, any girl who's ever played dress up in her mama's clothes, and like you put the shoes on, the shoes are like way too big for you and none of the clothes really fit, and you're kind of like, no, I look good, this is working, you know, like that's kind of the analogy that I think of when we are playing God and like, nope, I know how this all should go and everyone should listen to me. Good luck with that. So there you have it, 5 really, really powerful things that you can start doing right away. You can get on board with that honesty. You can get on board with that humility. That stuff will carry you through in such a powerful way. And if you are inspired to go all the way, to really dive deeper, to have that freedom and that inner lightness, to get free from some of those things that are blocking you, those fears and those resentments and those things that you're stuffing down, those things that you're, you know, you've got shame over or blame over, then definitely reach out to me. I would love, love, love to support you in creating that custom plan that will illuminate for you exactly what steps to take so you can have that too. So thank you again for those of you who tuned in live. It was such an honor to be here with you. If you feel like this video was valuable and you want to share it with others, please do, and I will connect more with you next time. Bye for now. Mwah.